All right. So, hey everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to wait just another minute to get started, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So, hopefully you all know me. My name is Michelle Nesky, the Posh PA. And we are here tonight to do a re-applicant review live. So a re-applicant review is a very common service that we provide. My team and I, we have a team of 5 other PAs who have been working with me for quite some time. And, since 2019, we've helped thousands of students get into PA school and even more, along their journey. And so we're blessed and honored to be able to do that. And I love to be able to give back to you as pre-PAs and as students. And I love hosting these live events where I can sort of show you how we do some of these services, but also provide you some free feedback and real-time feedback so you can see, maybe you can learn from somebody else's application that might look just like yours. And really have an opportunity to see how we work through this process together when you work with us or decide to work with us. So I'm excited for you to be here and see this, and hopefully, we can gain some valuable insight. Thank you so much to the applicants who are willing to share their applications today, and for all of you that shared them with me to be brave enough to do this here live today. So I really appreciate you. I think you're going to help a lot of people. And I think this is going to be fun. So typically, for a re-applicant review, what I will have applicants do is send me a copy of their CASPA application a few days before. So I have a chance to look at it beforehand. In this particular instance, I kind of chose 2 people at random from everybody who sent, and I actually just looked at them in the last half hour. So, because I wanted it to be more real time. But I wanted to also know kind of what we were, going to be looking for. And so I think it's important for you to kind of take that into consideration as well. But anyway, I'm excited. And the first application, so the other thing I want to say is that if you're not a reapplicant, so if you've never applied before, then the service that we typically would do is a counseling session. So if you're somebody that has applied before and you have an application that we can review and give you active feedback on how to improve and strategies to get better, then that's great. But if you're somebody that's you have not applied before and you're just like, I don't even know, like, here's all my stuff. Like, what do I do? I have this GPA, that is more of a counseling session where I will write down everything you have, and then we will go through a plan to say, okay, this is where you're lacking. This is what you need for your application. This is exactly where you need to be. So that's a little bit of a different conversation than somebody who's applied before, where we have an application to review. So just wanted to put that up there. So, Nicole, are you here? I saw you. Where'd you go? There you are. You can unmute
I'm
yourself.
here. Hello.
Hi,
Happy
how are you?
Wednesday.
Thank you
I'm
so
doing
much for
okay.
agreeing to do this,
Yeah, of course.
and being brave. So I am going to pull up your application if that is okay.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, just from kind of looking at your application, I have an idea of what you've done to sort of get to this point. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of a kind of what I think from your application, but I'm seeing here that basically that you've applied before, and that not only do you have a master's degree, but you not only have a bachelor's degree, you have a master's degree as well. That's correct, right?
Whatever.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
So how many times have you applied?
I've applied twice, and I've only applied to actually one program each time.
Okay.
Yeah, or was very selective.
Okay. And is that because of location or
I think it's more so because I have been out of school. Like my undergrad, I graduated in 2012.
okay.
So yeah, and then I got my master's. I went back and got my master's degree in public health more recently. So most of my science,
Sorry.
oh sorry,
Yeah. Sorry.
it's okay. So most of my science courses are expired, and I think the program that I applied to didn't have expiration dates, and I
Got it.
aligned with the mission as well for it. So
Yeah.
I figured I'd try and apply.
Okay. So that makes sense. So did you hear back from them at all in terms of interview or just they said no?
They just said no, yeah. And they in their notes said that I shouldn't reach out to ask for any feedback about my
Yeah.
application.
A lot of programs do that obviously because they have
Right,
a lot of
applicants.
history here. So, okay, yeah. So I did see on your application, let me just share my screen. I did see here on your application that your undergrad was back in 2008, right?
Right.
So I could see how you could run into a problem with expired prerequisites. But like you said, there are programs that you can still apply to that don't have an expiration date. So if you've found one or two, then I think that's probably, the best way to stay. Otherwise, you're going to have to retake all these things, which I would hope would not want you to do. Okay.
Right.
So I think there's that. Are you willing to look at other programs besides the one?
I think so. Yeah, I'm very open. I think I just have felt discouraged
Yeah.
with all the things that are stacked up against me. So I know, yeah, having to possibly retake, 2+ years worth of courses, I think is intimidating after I've gotten my master's of public health at a pretty rigorous program. So
Yes.
yeah, I just feel yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if I really want to do that, but I also think this is my next step. I'm not willing to let it go, so I
Yeah.
guess I need to just take this next steps. So
Because you
wanting just
absolutely killed
advice.
it in your master's.
Right, right.
So I think the thing here is what's happening is that your GPAs are actually hitting the mark. They're above where the cutoffs are, right? So, the
Mm-hmm.
cutoffs are 3.0, 3.2. Some programs have a 2.75, and your overall is 3.27, including your master's, and your science overall was 3.1. But if you look at your graduate degree, it's a 3.8. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that what's important to realize here is that there are programs out there that will either use your master's degree as your qualifying GPA, or they will look at your last 60 credits and use that as a qualifying GPA.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of this is going to come down to school selection for you, because we need to look for programs that don't have expiration dates and that are going to value your master's degree and
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily your, grades from 2008. With that being said, you still have above the minimum. So you can apply to other programs out there. But at the same time, if they're looking strictly at your undergraduate, then it's going to put you in a lower,
Right.
GPA bracket, which is unfortunate. So that's one of the things. But I think really for you, and I've worked with a lot of applicants like you, program
Mm-hmm.
selection is really important. And it sounds like you have found a program, but I guarantee there's more.
Okay.
And I'm happy to help you with that. I do have a list of programs that we sort of keep a running list. Every time we see one, we put it on the list, that will look at your master's or as your qualifying GPA or your last 60 credits, and we can look at those and see if there's any that you'd be interested in that also don't have expired prereqs. So
Okay.
so we can take, I'm happy to, after this call, I can email you that list and you can kind of take a look at it. There's a couple that come to mind in my head, like Morehouse University, like University of Pittsburgh hybrid program. They have no expiration date. Eastern Virginia Medical School. I don't know what their expiration date is, but just off the top of my head, those
Mhm.
are ones that I know for sure, like value your master's degree. There are many others, but when I'm looking at like qualifying GPA, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So I think just a couple off the top of my head. Outside of your GPA, I feel like some of the experiences you put on here are outdated, like they're old, right? So it's
Yeah.
2024. I really wouldn't go back more than 10 years, to be
Okay.
honest. I think especially for you as a more non-traditional applicant, I think 10 years is a good cutoff. You can put some of these things you did, but maybe some of the things from 2009, 2010, they're a little bit, older. 10 years is usually my cutoff, but for non-traditionals, I'd let you go back further for certain things. And then the second thing I will say is that your patient care hours are not as recent as I'd like them to be. You have 2020, and I think I wrote down 2018 as your direct patient care. Now you have a ton of healthcare experience, which is great.
Yeah.
But for the direct patient care, it's a little bit older. I know, however, those jobs don't pay as well. So, if you're trying to work and, it sounds like the position you have now is probably a little bit more feasible from a lifestyle perspective. And so you're still in the healthcare arena. So
Mhm.
I don't know if it would be possible to get some just per diem hands-on work that might help. And
Mhm.
then the second thing I would say is that you don't have any PA shadowing,
Yes. Yeah.
which is very easy for me to say, but hard for you to get, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and I'm sensitive to that. I think there are certain states where you'll find a ton of PAs that are willing to just have you shadow and have you do all these things. And then there are others that it's very, very hard. So, is there anyone in your current, like where you work now, anybody that knows a PA or something that might be able to help?
Yeah, I've tried to use my network, and no one in my vicinity in like Southern California
Hmm.
has a connect. And I've even tried like adding different Facebook groups, even though I don't really use Facebook like that,
Yes.
to see if I could engage with different sectors that know about like where to find shadowing opportunities. But every time I've posted something, I get
Yeah.
crickets, and yeah, there's no. I think the only person that I could potentially, which I don't, I'm curious to hear your advice on this, is I see a PA
Mhm.
for a specific specialty.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's appropriate for me as a patient to be like, oh, hey, like I'm interested in this.
Oh,
Would you know
absolutely.
how to?
Yeah, I think if you told your PA that you wanted to be a PA, she'd be happy.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know? Or
I'm
he
more
or
so
whoever.
intimidated. Yeah, like, oh
Yeah,
my
I
gosh,
think
maybe
if
they're
you
gonna start
told your
analyzing.
provider
Yeah.
that you wanted to be a PA and just be like, I know this is a long shot, but like, is there any chance that I'd be able to shadow you, or do you know somebody that would
Hmm.
be willing to let me shadow them?
Yeah.
Because that's happened to me. Like I've
Really?
had patients like whose daughters were, like, oh, they're like, oh, my daughter wants to be a PA. Can she shadow you? I'm like, sure.
Oh, wow.
So, I think so there's that as well. So I would definitely ask. There's no harm in
Mhm.
asking. I mean, the worst they could say is no.
Yeah.
But I know in my mind, anytime I meet somebody that's like, oh, I want to be a PA, I'm like, really cool. Like, let's,
Yeah.
and and that's kind of the same thing that I see in my practice with other PAs. So I mean, I would hope that they would be open to it. So I would definitely try that.
Okay.
Um, outside of that, you have a good amount of volunteer experience, a lot of it. You have a lot of healthcare experience. I think some of the non-healthcare employment from more than 10 years ago you can take out. I think I saw
Okay.
one or two maybe from 2008 that's non-healthcare related. So I'd probably take that out. But outside of that, I would keep all the rest. Okay. Okay, you're fine. So I basically think if we can get you some shadowing hours and just kind of take out some of these older things, um, is it possible at all for you to do any like hands-on patient work right now?
With the rigor of my current job, I don't know, but I'm
Yeah.
always happy to. I mean, I work with nurses and midwives, so
Yeah.
I feel like they would understand, but it would definitely have to be a conversation.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
I mean, not something that I think is really hindering, but I think the most recent one you had was 2020, right? I think it
Yeah.
was.
Yes, you're right, because then I went to school. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So those are kind of the top couple of things I would think about. I thought your personal statement was very good.
Oh,
I thought there was some grammatical things I think that we can change. And that the flow could be a little bit better. I really loved your this down here where you're talking about like broken healthcare systems and insufficient healthcare infrastructure and all of that. Really is your YPA, I feel like, right? Like down
Yes.
here, you know, is I would like to provide direct patient care to refugee populations in the US and low resource set. I want to see that higher up here. Okay.
Okay.
So like maybe you can integrate that sort of, I know you're kind of going in a timeline and I think that's totally fine. But what I like to do sometimes is in the first part of your personal statement, kind of put one of these impact statements right at the beginning, and then you can go back and like tell me a little bit more. But really in that first paragraph, I'm like, aha,
I
like this is
see.
why, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, you're talking about your first journeys and growing up in America and, you know, being from sort of being in a non-traditional place and in a non-traditional situation that have allowed you this opportunity to cultivate and define your life's trajectory. um I think here what you could say is um one off the beaten path that has led me to um have a passion for refugee and indigent populations in the US, and to be able to um, dedicate my career to bridge the gap between diseases and, you know, this down here as a
Okay.
PA, right? And so right in the beginning, I'm like, ah, got it,
I see.
right? And
Yeah.
then you can kind of go back and be like, okay, this is where this started. This is, you know, the other thing that I would do is, you talk a lot about your MPH degree, which I think is great, but I would really like to see something about your patient care experience here.
Okay.
Like something. Um, you know, maybe because you talk about being a volunteer, which I think is very powerful, and having that experience, you know, open. But I think maybe using an example from your actual patient care experience, maybe where you saw um that can support why you want to do this. Because anything you say, if you
Mm,
say, oh, I want to do this, there's a really a reason behind that. And I think putting an example behind it just gives it weight, and then you're like showing me instead of telling me you just want to do
right.
that. But I think that you know, yeah, and then there's just a couple of grammatical things, but outside of that, I mean, just a little bit of tweaking. It doesn't need to be thrown away. It doesn't need to be um completely rewritten. I just think
Okay.
that we can highlight your strengths a little bit more.
That's great. Thank you. That I was really anxious for this call because I was like, oh, the personal statement, I don't know
Yeah,
how
no,
to
I
do it
think it's
safe.
good.
So
I think we can make it
appreciate it.
phenomenal. I think you're holding back a little bit. I think you have to remember that this is your opportunity to like show them your
Mm,
strengths. And I feel a lot of passion from this, which I love. Like
yeah.
that's what I want to feel. But I also want to be like, damn, like, okay, she's been doing this. This is what she wants to do as a PA. This is why, you know, that kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think we can work on that. Um, the other thing here that I kind of didn't mention is in your experience descriptions, what I think makes really strong experience descriptions is to write what you did, but then write
Mm,
something you learned, like from
okay.
the experience, right? So, you know, in your patient care experience, for example, or even in your healthcare experience, here, your patient care experience, you know, facilitated new patient conversations, verified insurance. What did that teach you? That taught you how to be efficient, communicate with other members of the staff, you know, be part of a
Mm,
team. I think a lot of times we really, really focus on the hard skills. Like I took vital signs, I prepped food, I did this, right? But also like, what about all those other amazing soft skills you learned,
right,
right?
right.
Like, oh, I communicated with the team. I was like talking to patients and families. I learned how to be sensitive to them. I learned how to, you know, work an electronic medical record. I learned how to, you know what I mean? Like all those
Yeah,
other
yeah.
things you don't really think about, like teamwork, like communication, leadership skills, things like that. So
Hmm.
you don't necessarily have to put it for a, you don't have to go that deep into it if it's a experience you had for like one day. But if it's something
Right.
where you have like a lot of hours, I think it's kind of important to put, what you did, what you saw, and then something that you learned from that. Um, that's kind of my rule of thumb. And then outside of this, I mean, you have your certifications, you have your letters of rec. You don't have a letter of rec from a PA because you don't have a PA shadowing or anything. So, I mean, I
Right.
totally get that. So obviously we're going to work on that. That's going to be a major thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think kind of overall, it's the main theme here is making some tweaks to your experience descriptions and
Mhm.
experiences, taking out some of the older ones. Um, and then adding some PA shadowing, maybe trying to get a PA letter. If we can maybe get more patient care that's recent, um, slight revamp of your personal statement. But the biggest thing for you is going to be program selection.
Okay.
That is going to change the game.
Yeah.
Because if you're applying to a program that's looking at your undergraduate GPAs only, it's a disservice to you because you
Right.
have a master's degree that you did really well.
Mm.
So, so I think that, really focusing in on those programs that, and like I said, after this, I'm happy to send you that list and just kind of think about if there's any on there that you align with your values that you'd be willing to go to, that can go to for different reasons if you can't relocate or whatever. But I just the ones off the top of my head, I think you would have a good shot
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
at getting
I
it in.
really, really appreciate this. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that
That's,
helpful?
that was extremely helpful. I'm just feeling so hopeful because I feel like I've been discouraged
Yeah.
with this whole process and
Listen,
just
it
all
would
the
be really
things. Yeah.
easy for me to come at you and be like, go get recent patient care hours, go find a PA to shadow, retake 10 classes. I mean,
Right.
this is real life, right? Like
Right.
this is not fantasy land where you could just stop your whole
Yeah.
life and go back to school for 2 years, right?
Right.
So we
Oh,
have to work with what we have. And
yeah.
I think, you can put forward small steps into your application that will make it better without disrupting your entire life. Because you have to think about the financial implications and and the life implications, and so I think it's just going to be in your case, making some tweaks, finding programs that are going to value this. They do exist. I've worked with, a lot of applicants like you. And if for some reason we're running into a lot of expiration issues, there are some programs that don't have a ton of prereqs.
Mm.
So, maybe there are some programs with lists of 12, 15 prereqs. And then there are
Right.
programs that have like five, so
Right.
then that's
Yeah.
maybe something we could be like, well, is it worth it to kind of do this, but I don't
Yeah.
think we're there yet.
Okay.
I don't think we're there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate, and I also appreciate you telling me that you've seen many applicants that are like me, because
Yeah.
I think I feel very siloed and alone
Yes.
because just seeing all of the programs that do have the expiration dates, I'm assuming that's just, what is common in an
Yeah.
applicant. So it's
Yeah.
very, yeah, much appreciated.
Yeah, I actually had a couple of older applicants in the PA Admissions Accelerator, which is my big course that I do every year.
Mhm.
Um, One has 5 interviews. He's like over 40 years old, and
Wow.
kind of in a similar situation with expired things and blah, blah, blah. So,
Yeah.
these
Oh,
people
wow.
exist. I feel like there should be a
Okay.
group of you somewhere. I mean, I
They
love, so
should
I
be.
mean, don't lose hope with that.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
and then, yeah, and we'll go from there. Okay, awesome. Well,
Okay.
I'm glad this was helpful.
Yeah.
Also, I'm gonna put my email here in the chat. Just shoot me an email after this and remind me to send you that thing because I might forget between
Yeah.
now and the morning because I'm
Thank
like
you.
crazy. But
Will do.
just make sure. And then also I'm happy to help you tweak your personal statement as well. Um,
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much.
you're welcome. Okay, and then Ariana just asked, I'm not sure who's supposed to have it. On our application, should we add all work experience? Thought it was only healthcare work experience, not general. Um, okay, so you can list, there are 9 categories in which you can list experiences in CAPA. Patient care, healthcare, shadowing, research, teaching, leadership, volunteer work, extracurricular activities, and non-healthcare employment. Okay. I would list non-healthcare employment if it's applicable to like kind of skills that you gain that are going to help you in the healthcare field, right? So if you worked in a service industry of any kind, like you learned to manage conflict, you learned to deal with difficult people, you've learned all of this, right? And so if you've done patient care experience, but also, hey, we're a barista on the side for 5 years, then I would definitely put that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I wouldn't put a job you worked at for 3 months, but if it's something that you really worked at, I would put it in there. It also shows a little bit of diversity to your application. Um, Also, in terms of websites to look for schools, I have one as well. It's called the PA Program Manual Online. You can do a school search there. Ariana is saying PA School Finder. Some of them are not up to date. So I would just be a little bit, make sure you're still going to the program's website, because they're also changing a lot of their uh prerequisites and stuff every year. They might tweak it, a little bit. So I would just be careful about that. And then I'm gonna give you the website for mine, which is like a year subscription. And I know it's up to date because we just did it. Here it is. I'll drop it in the chat. It's the PA Program Manual Online. But again, it's sometimes hard to find these nuanced programs where you can see if they will take your master's or take your, take that. So every time I see them or one of the other experts see them, we put it on the list. So so we have that. I can share it for all of you. I don't have to wait to just share it with one person. I can make it public to you. Hold on a second. Because I think it's important. I think it's a good resource to have. And again, this is not like the end all be all list. This is just like we see it, we put it on, And again, make sure to just double check. But here, I can share this with all y'all. I will put it in the chat. Okay. It's right here. There you go. All right. Okay. The next person we have is Paige. Are you here? Say.
Hi,
Hi, Paige. How are
I'm
you?
good. How are you?
Okay, so Paige has good news. And since sending me her application, she's gotten 2 interviews, which is amazing. That's great. Are you excited?
Thank you. I'm very, very excited. Yeah.
Okay, so are you a first-time applicant?
No, this is my second time. I applied, I was just really eager to get started. So I started gaining my patient care experience last September. And
Okay.
so I applied only to 4 schools like a week before the deadline, which was not, I'm learning, not a smart process at all. But so this is my second time applying. I just kind of went in with, I know you were talking a little bit about like just more of a strategic kind of outlook and like
Yes.
strategically picking schools that kind of met where I was at. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of
that's
what I did.
awesome.
Thank you.
But that's a good life lesson, right? Like, but I have a lot of people do this where they're like, oh, I just want to throw an application
Yeah.
and see what happens. It's a week before the deadline. I don't have a lot of hours. I don't know, I don't
Yeah.
know. But it does give you the experience of going through it. So, I mean,
Right.
I think there is something to be said for that. I think your application this year looks pretty great.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate
I'm
that.
not surprised. Your grades are amazing. It's not a GPA issue. When I was looking at this before you told me that you had an interview, I was like, oh, well, maybe her patient care is a little low
Yeah.
because your total was 1505. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, that's a little on the line. I mean, average is like 2000, right? So it's like, oh, that was actually non-healthcare. Yeah, 1560. So, it's like, oh, it's a little on the low side, but you've got a lot of other good things on here. You've got research, you've got shadowing, you had a good amount of shadowing hours that are of PAs. You have recent volunteer work. So I thought this really looked good. I think my recommendation was going to be just to gain more patient care hours.
Mhm.
And just really try to bulk up your experiences, but it looks like you've already don't have to do that, so that's good. And I think that you have a nice diversity of your experiences, so like volunteer work, a little bit of research, a little bit of extracurricular. You also listed a non-healthcare related experience where you worked for 8 years. I think that's a good thing to do. Someone else said retail. Absolutely. If you worked in retail for 4 years, God bless. Like, talk about like managing, and you can tie that really into being. And she did that here, y'all. So she said, I learned the principles of customer service and how specifically personalized service leads to customer satisfaction and repeat business. You can easily, this is healthcare. Healthcare is customer service. So with the little or heavier result, right? But it basically is like you're meeting patients, you're learning those things. So I think it is very applicable. And again, I think Paige does a good job here of saying what she did, what she learned, right? And so even if it's a non-healthcare experience, you can make it relevant. And so again, this experience prepared me to think quickly, diligently, fast-paced, high-stress environments. This is a great experience description. So,
Thank you.
so I think that was really, really nice.
Now, I know you were kind of mentioning that my patient care was a little bit on the lower end. Would you, to the schools that I haven't heard back from, would you send them an update or no? Because I said in my application that my patient care was a current experience.
I mean, if you've gained you've probably gained what, an additional 200 hours or
Yeah,
something?
300 or so.
Yeah. So if it's
Okay.
over 100 hours, I would update them. So because that pushes you closer. The other thing you can do if you're in this situation is you can write in your experience description that you'll continue to work until matriculation and that you hope that estimate the number of hours. You know what I mean? So you can always do that. But what I wouldn't do is just email them. People are like, should I just email them and just let them know how many hours? I'm like, wait until you have 100 hours, like a substantial number of hours, send them an update, say, hey, I've gained 300 additional patient care hours. I'm excited to hear from you, blah, blah, blah. It can't hurt.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing you can do is you can add an experience. So once you've submitted your CASP application, you can't edit the experiences in there, but you can add one. So you might want to add it in there and then email and say, hey, I updated my patient care hours with a new experience or something, just so it's in both places. But I think it's a good idea to do that, especially if you have 300 hours. That's pushing you towards that 2000 mark. How do you feel about this personal statement?
I don't know. I haven't read it since I applied. It came a long way since when I first applied back in December. There's parts of it that I like, there's parts of it that I don't love.
Yeah. I actually think it's great. I think it's good. I think it's a little story, like, the little Post-it note situation.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm like kind of weird about this. I love it when people tie in the first paragraph to the last one. So like if you would have put something like, I still have that Post-it note I look at every day or something just to make it more like a cohesive thing. But obviously, I mean, I think this is well written. I think it's what you want to get out of a personal statement is why people want to be a PA, what impact they want to have as a PA, and what strengths do they have that make them ready. Right. So that's my personal opinion. And maybe learn something about them that I would not have read on their application. Like Nicole's, like I would not have known that whole backstory about, her company. So that is important. And I think that's kind of fun here, just adding something personal, like there was, that relationship, with your father, I think was really nice. You can't read that on your application, right? And then, I think you see here, like how, right in the beginning, you're like, okay, I learned about the profession. This is why I specifically want to be a PA. But then I love that you talked about living abroad and being alone and not something I would have read. And what that gave you: adaptability, resilience, being able to navigate those struggles as a PA. You also used your patient care experience with a short, concise example that got to the point and basically showed that what you're already doing and how you want to carry it forward as a PA. So I thought that was a good example. So overall, I thought good, well written. Yes, we could tweak this if we need to, but again, not a throwaway, like very good when it comes to that. So
I was kind of going back and forth. I don't know, in your opinion, like I felt like I didn't maybe emphasize my why enough.
Like why specifically PA?
Yeah, I guess so. Like I kind of like talked about, how I want to help people, but I just feel like it was kind of hard. Like I didn't have like an aha moment. So that's kind of why I went with like kind of more of a story with like multiple things. But
yeah, but I think here you kind of say here, right? It's my ambition to always offer support and empathy to patients. And just the example of what you did for this woman shows me that, right? So I think, yeah, is this a little, would I reword this? Yes. But I also got the point. You know what I mean? We can really, especially personal statements, we can really nitpick. But yeah, I mean, if we had to write this again, I would change this a little bit, to say something like, it's my ambition to always offer support and empathy to patients. It's not enough just to treat their medical condition, but important to help and connect with them on another level to provide the best personalized care, right? Something like that, where it's like a little bit more clear, not just I want to help people, right? It's more specific, to say, yeah, like it's not just enough for people to be a medical diagnosis. Like you have to know them, like as a person and what they're, and make that connection and develop that personalized approach. And so, yeah, maybe would I have changed that? Probably. But again, also the point was well taken. I think that, in terms of why specifically PA, I think you did that here. Emphasizing autonomy, appreciating the collaboration, lifelong learning. I think that's fine, but I think you're like, did I really get my impact across? I think so. It could be a little stronger, but again, I think you showed me the type of person you are here. Yes. Yes. So, and then, yeah, your letters of rec and, this is great. So I think this is a nice testament to, having a more complete application, this time around and really, putting the pieces together and being able to write good experience descriptions, having a little more time, getting your application in early, all of those things that really can help people get interviews. So congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Does anybody have questions? We've got some time. I'm happy to take some questions. If anyone wants to ask specifically about their application, if you worked at a retail place, yes, I would list that. Yeah, go ahead, Adriana.
Hi, Michelle and everybody else. Nice to meet everyone. So I currently am an oncology medical assistant, and we have hematology oncology, surgical oncology, and gynecological oncology. I have been shadowing and working with all of them, just gaining more experience. Is it a possibility for PA schools? I haven't really seen a set answer to this yet. Is it a possibility for a committee letter per se for all of them? Or would you rather just see like one specific PA? Because I've connected with them a lot. I've been in the OR, I've been in the rooms with hematologists and stuff. It's just it's kind of hard to pick, but I feel like my application could use a stronger letter of recommendation like that.
Sure.
How are your thoughts on that?
So when you say a committee, do you mean just like a couple of PAs writing a letter together, or like a lot of people?
All of the physician assistants. We have 2 hematologists, 1 surge, and 1 gyne. So it would be 4 total.
I mean, I feel like, yes, that's powerful, but also, but is it personal? Like, I think you can make pros and cons for both, right? So what you do have to do in CASPA is assign it to one person. So
Okay,
you can't assign it to a group, right? But you could assign it to that one person and then have that person be like the lead, but then maybe include like paragraphs from the other PAs. Do you know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And then have it signed as them. So it's one person's kind of the lead person, but they are putting the letter together in representation of like all of them. You know what I mean? And if they all want to sign it at the bottom, I think that's amazing.
Okay. Sure. I just wasn't sure if it was a traditional way to go. I know it's probably not, but I just feel like it could add a little bit more
Yeah.
to the application that I'm looking for.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea.
Perfect. Thank you so
Just
much. I
have like
appreciate
one
it.
point person, and then maybe you can have them all sign. I think that would be pretty cool.
Okay. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for the feedback. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, how would you go about updating a current experience in CASPA? I applied in May and gained 640 more patient care hours. Would I create the same experience again? Yes. So you would basically write the same, like same place, but you would add like the number of hours. And then what you would write is, this is a continuation of my direct patient care experience from the experience listed below, blah, blah, blah. So that's how I would do it. And in terms of bullet point or paragraph for your experience descriptions, it literally does not matter. It does not matter as long as you're consistent throughout. If you start with bullets, stay with bullets. If you're in paragraphs, do paragraphs. Okay. So I think that's really important. I also wanted to let you guys know that I'm doing another free event. It's a master class for pre-PAs. It's going to be on September 12th. And I can drop the registration for you there, but it's really kind of sharing sort of my insider secrets to kind of the application process and kind of giving you some tidbits that might help you along the way. It's not going to be very long, but I'll drop that in the chat as well, the link to that. Again, it's going to be September 12th, but also we'll answer a lot of these questions that you might have and some different ones that you may not. So, okay, so I am currently a junior in my undergrad and wondering if my application is enough to be ready. You have 700 hours at the time. Yeah, I might wait. I mean, so here's the deal. There's 2 different kinds of people in this situation. There's people like Paige and there's people like, someone else, right? So some people are going to be like, I know my hours are low. I have everything else. I don't really care. I'm just going to give it a shot. Like, I'm going to try. I have nothing to lose, right? And there are other people that are like, absolutely not. The rejection would kill me. There's no way that I'm going through all of this, like not to get in. So I think there's really 2 schools of thought there. I personally think you want to put forward the most complete application as possible. So the one that makes you the most competitive. But again, if you wanted to throw an application out there, you could, right? It's like a could versus should situation. And I really think that depends on your personality a little. All right, Carolina.
Hi. First of all, thank you. You've been so helpful this session.
Oh, great.
And then I had a question about the experiences for CASPA
Yeah.
because I started my patient care. I've actually been at it for 5 years.
Wow.
And I started as an MA and then went to lead MA and now I'm the office supervisor. So this past cycle, I just kind of split up my experience like half and half, where half was like direct patient care and then half was like more the admin side of things. But I don't know how you would suggest, because I mean, it's a small office, like at a podiatrist. So I kind of do a little bit of everything.
Right.
So it's just a little hard to split it up.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of people like this where they like start out as like in one role and then they kind of move into other roles, right? So you want the bulk of your patient care hours to be in your clinical role. Okay. So I would say, you know, if you've been there for 5 years, you've got 10,000 hours maybe, right?
Yeah,
So you
around there.
can separate these however you'd like, but I would say you want a bulk of them to be patient care. Anytime that you're a lead, like in a leadership role, I might list that as leadership instead of like healthcare
Okay.
experience. So if you're the lead,
Uh,
I would take those hours and however many hours you want, 1,000, whatever, and put them in leadership. I was the lead person. This is what I did. This is who I trained, right? And then if you're in more of a more administrative role, you know, as a like you're doing more paperwork and stuff like that, you might want to put that as healthcare experience. So it really just depends. It sounds like you've kind of moved. Are you more in like a administrative role right now?
right now it's kind of half and half. Just
Okay.
'cause, like I told you, it's a small practice, so I still
Right.
step in quite a bit with patients. But I also spent a lot of time, like on the phone reviewing
Yeah.
results that patients don't really need to come in and stuff like that. So I do have more like patient care in that sense than I did just as a regular MA.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think patient phone calls, follow-ups, and things like that, that's still patient care to me. Like, if
Okay.
you're talking to patients, touching patients, then following up with them, doing the things, I mean, that's patient care. But you might want to take out some hours and put them in leadership because you are in a, you know, a more leadership role.
Okay. I think that's what I didn't do is I didn't split it up into the leadership. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have
All
so
right.
many hours you can do that. I would not like if you were somebody with 1,500 hours, I would just be like, put them all as patient care and like listed, you know, in there. But because you have so many, we have the opportunity to pull some leadership from there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
You're welcome. Anything else, y'all? Is lifeguarding considered PCE? No, lifeguarding is not considered PCE. It is, you can put it as, I think you can list it as healthcare experience or non-healthcare employment. It depends on how much you are doing, but it's not patient care. Okay. This was so exciting. So I'm basically going to send this recording out to y'all, whoever didn't get to be here. And then again, another free masterclass happening on the 12th. Gonna kind of go through the, you know, pre-PA process. I'm also gonna talk a little bit about how we can kind of help you through that through my PA admissions accelerator and all of that. But if you have any questions, I dropped my email in this chat earlier, and you can shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer them. But I have two more questions. Hold on. How important letters of rec for your application? They're actually really important. You want people who are going to write you strong letters. Okay. So if you have a choice of asking someone who is like an acquaintance versus someone who knows you and like is going to write you a good letter, I would go with the person who knows you. The quality of your letters is important. If we've gone over experience review with my team and gone over our personal essay, what would you say are the next steps? So are you applying next cycle? Or did you apply this cycle? You can reply in the chat if you want. You applied this cycle and you haven't heard anything. By the way, if you applied this cycle and you haven't heard anything, that's normal. It's still not September, okay? So it's still not September. It's like there are still many programs that are going to be interviewing in the fall. So I want you to stay positive for that. But I would say if you haven't done a re-applicant review, I would do that. If not, reach out to me directly and I'll see exactly what you need. I can go back and see what you've had. If you did a re-applicant review this cycle along with personal statement review and edits, what would you recommend? If no interviews this cycle, then I think you just book a counseling session, like a 30-minute session, or you just reach out to me and I'll tell you what to do. But I think if you still aren't hearing anything, we need to get on a call and make a plan. Okay. So then it really takes like, We just need to have a conversation. We need to really look at everything. We need to see what's happening. Are we picking the right programs? What, you know, that kind of thing. Okay, am I hosting a live mock interview? I have a live mock interview on my YouTube channel. I can definitely do that. I did one at the beginning of the cycle. I did one last year and she wound up getting in. It was amazing, but that's on my YouTube channel if you want to take a look at it, but I will definitely do another one. I also have an entire interview playlist. So if you want, let me see where here. This is free. It's it's my top videos on mastering your PA school interview. They're on my YouTube channel, but they are all in a nice little pretty list for you here. So you can take a look at that. Sorry, I know I said that to one person, but here it is in the chat. Yeah, you can book a reapplicant session on my website, or you can email me and we can figure that out. So my website is michellenefke.com. So, and then if you go to free PA coaching, there's like all the options there. And then my email address is here. And then, would I say virtual shadowing is weighted less now, not accepted than in person? Yes, I would. Some schools don't accept it at all. I would still list it though. I would still list it, but if that's the only thing you have, I mean, it's better than nothing. Do I have a list of schools with a low GPA acceptance rate? No, but you can search the site that I gave you earlier and see. But I will say this, on the list that I dropped here earlier in the chat, it does have schools with lower accepted GPAs, 2.75. So that is on there. And if you're a late applicant for schools due in September, but you're still applying to another due in November, December, and January, yeah, that's okay. You still have time. You know, however, I think you're really smart to be working on this right now. Okay. I will say that on the list that I dropped here earlier in the, so, I mean, I think that, you know, you just want to make sure that you're getting your ducks in a row just in case, and that you have a plan going forward and you know what the deficiencies are in your application so that you can continue to work through them now and not be like, oh crap, it's January. How am I going to fix this problem? And so I said this in my Instagram stories the other day, you know, people who keep working through the noise are the ones that are the most successful. So you don't know if you're going to get an interview. You put your best foot forward. At the same time, you have to continue to work moving forward. You know, what can you add? What can you make better? What can you be doing, you know? And in the meantime, you know, prepare if you're getting interviews and stuff like that. So I dropped in the chat the interview playlist, my website, my email, the list of programs, the last 60, dropped a lot of goodies in here for y'all. I will try to, so in like an email that I'm going to send out to you guys after with the recording and everything, I will try to put all of this in so that you get it. Okay. Anything else, you guys? Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I hope this was helpful. And if you don't follow me, go ahead and follow me. My Instagram is at michelle.theposhpa. That's where my TikTok is as well. My YouTube channel is at theposhpa. And you can find all great information there. So I will see you guys soon, hopefully next week on September 12th on my free masterclass. All right. I'll see you guys.
Thank you.